All right, today we're going to dive into two really powerful but really different AI research tools, Atypica and Perplexity. And this whole thing really boils down to two very different questions you can ask. Are you trying to figure out what is happening in a market, or are you trying to dig deep and understand why it's happening?
Okay, let's kick things off with a question that probably keeps a lot of you up at night. You've done everything by the book, right? You've studied the market, you know the competition inside and out, and yet, for some reason, your product just isn't connecting with people. It happens all the time. But why? Well, the answer, a lot of the time, comes down to the difference between two kinds of knowledge. On one hand, you've got all the public information out there that answers what is already known. But on the other hand, you have true user insights, the hidden stuff that reveals why people actually do what they do. And that's the fundamental difference we're going to explore. So to really make this concrete, we're going to look at two tools that kind of champion these two different approaches. We've got Perplexity, the master of what, and Atypica, the expert in finding the why.
And right here, you can see the difference in black and white. Perplexity, it's an AI search engine. It just scours the public internet, pulling data from over 200 sources to whip up a report in like 3 minutes. Atypica, on the other hand, is a user research platform. It actually conducts these deep interviews with AI personas, which are built from tons of social data to give you these rich insights in about 20 minutes. So you can see, one is all about speed and breadth, the other is all about depth.
So let's break down Perplexity first. You can pretty much think of it as the ultimate web aggregator. Its superpower is just blasting through massive amounts of public data and neatly packaging it into a single structured report. It tells you what's publicly known, and it does it fast.
And then you have Atypica, which we're calling the user whisperer here. Its goal is totally different. It's not trying to search the web, it's designed to talk to simulated users. It runs these AI-powered interviews to get past all the surface-level stuff and find those really crucial, often unspoken reasons and roadblocks behind people's choices.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. We're going to walk through a little story here about a company trying to launch a new smart home device.
So first up, they run a report on Perplexity. And the results? They look incredible. The market is massive. It's growing at 11% a year. We know the big players. We know the key trends like security and integration. I mean, everything is screaming go, right?
But hang on a second. Here's the critical question. Knowing the market's going to be worth $135 billion, does that tell you anything about why a single person right now is staring at your buy button and just not clicking it? No. That's the gap this kind of data leaves.
Now, let's switch gears and see what Atypica found when it actually talked to simulated users. What's the #1 reason they're hesitating? It's just too complicated to set up. A staggering 22 out of 25 users brought this up. See, that's not a market trend, it's a real human friction point.
And insight number 2 digs even deeper. 18 out of 25 users mentioned privacy, but it wasn't just some vague concern. They had a specific, visceral fear. I'm worried it's always listening. That's an emotional barrier that a standard market report is just never going to find. And then, the third big insight. People couldn't connect the price tag to a real benefit. Sure, they heard about energy savings, but they couldn't do the math in their head to see if it was actually worth it. The value proposition just wasn't landing.
And here's where it all comes together. This is the difference. These why insights from Atypica, they lead you straight to an actionable strategy. Are people worried about setup? Okay, let's offer a professional installation service. Are they scared about privacy? Let's market a local-only processing feature to address that directly. Unsure about the value? Let's build a simple ROI calculator right on the website. See? Problem, solution.
Let's look at a second example. This time, it's a SaaS startup. They've got an idea for a product, but they need to find that all-important, elusive thing, product-market fit.
So their journey followed this exact playbook. They started broad with market research to get the lay of the land, but then they drilled way down into user discovery to find out what people really needed. And that understanding led to a major strategic pivot and, well, a pretty fantastic result.
Okay, so step 1, Perplexity. And just like in our last story, the report confirmed the market was healthy, it was growing, it gave them all the competitor and pricing benchmarks. So this validated that a market existed, but it didn't tell them if their specific product idea was the right one.
Then came the Atypica research, and this was the absolute game changer. They found out users felt the existing tools were way too bloated and complex. People only wanted maybe 20% of the features, but were being forced to navigate and pay for all 100%.
And the biggest shocker? The real barrier wasn't the price. It was the painful onboarding process. I mean, that one quote says it all. I'd pay double if it just worked.
So based on those why insights, the startup pivoted. They junked the complex version and built something much simpler, more focused, and guaranteed a super fast setup. And the result? A 45% conversion rate. That is 2.5 times the industry average. That's what happens when you solve the real problem.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's not about one tool being better than the other. This isn't Perplexity versus Atypica. It's really about understanding which tool you need to use and when. It's about building a complete research toolkit.
And the playbook is actually pretty simple. You use a tool like Perplexity when you need the what. How big is the market? What are my competitors saying publicly? What are the published trends? But you absolutely have to turn to a tool like Atypica when you need the why. Is this the right product? What needs are we missing? And is our messaging actually going to work?
So a really powerful way to combine these looks like this. You start with Perplexity to get the big picture market context. Then you switch to Atypica to get that deep foundational understanding of your user's needs. Sure, you can go back to Perplexity for things like technical research, but your final product strategy, that has to be guided by the why you discovered with Atypica.
Because at the end of the day, for most product teams, success isn't a 50-50 split. It is overwhelmingly dependent on deeply understanding your users. You can think of it like this. Knowing the market, that's the 10% you need just to enter the game. But knowing the user, that's the 90% that actually lets you win.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time your team is up against a big, critical decision, just pause for a second and ask yourselves, are we focusing all our energy on what the market reports are telling us? Or are we really digging in to understand why our user will actually care enough to listen, to click, and to buy? Because the answer to that question, well, it could make all the difference in the world.